More on Smart Assistants with Jeff Gamet on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Live, our weekly live panel discussion of what is going on in the Apple space, as well as the larger tech world, and how it is impacting you. Join us live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, or whatever time that is wherever you are, at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and participate in the chat, or catch the edited and segmented versions of the show on the regular MacVoices channels and feeds. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the second part of a conversation that Jeff Gamet and I had on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on a day when everyone else had schedule conflicts. So Jeff and I dove deep into a couple topics. We started with Smart Assistants, and you'll hear the conclusion of that in this episode, as well as a conversation about Clipboard Managers, why one of us uses them and why one of us doesn't. I want to say again a big thanks to you and Rankin for allowing the redistribution of this show. If you want to hear everything that the British Tech Network does, check it all out at BritishTechNetwork.com. Let's get back to the conversation with Jeff. I guess this all just points to the fact that advertising pays for so many things or subsidizes so many things that we enjoy. And it's almost about how it's delivered. And for me, I would add expectations and the method of delivery, because there are times that, and I've obviously been conditioned, as you have, as everyone who watches this has, to accept advertising in certain areas without even thinking about it. You know, you turn on a football game or a baseball game, and inevitably you see, placards and screens and everything. And now they've gotten smart. Now you don't just buy a placard at the ballpark. You buy a few seconds or minutes on a screen. And, then the next minute it goes, I'm sure you have the electronic billboards where you are. And I mean, the good news is, I guess, if on the other side, if you're trying to get a message out, it becomes much more affordable because you can afford minutes, not weeks on a billboard. But is that acceptable? I don't mind it, honestly. I don't mind the video billboards, but it does bug me when the A lady tries to sell me something. So
yeah, the video billboards here, they're in the stadiums and arenas. And when I travel back east, seeing actual billboards along the highway for me is a weird thing.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. And I don't.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't know why we don't have billboards like that here. But yeah, there you go.
I would assume it's some of your local zoning that they've decided they don't want them. And
yeah, I'm assuming so.
Some because I'm sure somebody's tried to lobby for that and it probably gets shut down.
Yeah, and yes, I'm sure that's it. Yeah. So, all right, Chuck, this whole conversation, which ended up going on a lot longer than I expected. I mean, that stemmed from what was happening pre-show, and another thing that happened pre-show was you said, "Hey Jeff, what Clipboard Manager do you use?" And I said, "Right now, I'm not. I try using them and then end up stopping." And the look on your face was as if I had slapped you with a fish.
It was a look of disbelief and maybe horror. I can't imagine.
I can appreciate this.
I can't imagine how you exist without a Clipboard Manager.
Chuck, here's my problem with Clipboard Managers. I try them. I want to use them. I fully believe in the purpose of a Clipboard Manager. And yet I always end up just stopping to use them. And I can't figure out yet if I'm not finding the right clipboard manager, or if I have some brain dysfunction that prevents me from effectively using clipboard managers. And Bob Beach is already hopping in the chat saying that he uses Alfred. I have Alfred installed and I use Alfred all the time, and I do not use the clipboard manager thing.
That's fascinating. So let me try to sway you for a minute.
Please.
Okay.
Like, seriously, please.
Because I use 2 clipboard managers, which sounds crazy, I know, but there's a really good reason. First of all, the one that is the most used and for a long time was my only clipboard manager, is the one that's included in LaunchBar. Now,
LaunchBar, yeah.
Yes. Now, I love LaunchBar, but I love the clipboard manager with one small exception that I'll talk about here in a second. But I have it set to capture the last 100, I believe is the most that you can capture entries to my clipboard. And I am forever going through, well, just like now. Okay, one of the things we said we were going to do before we started the show was we're going to do a cool thing. I looked up my cool thing. I got the link. I put it on the clipboard. Now, during the show, things will come up and I'll hear you say something. It's like, oh, I want to go look at that. And so I might copy a link out of the chat room or something like that. And then that means that I've just emptied my clipboard without a clipboard manager. And so now I've got to go back and find the other one. So that's the one thing. I mean, it stacks up 100 of the last most used entries in chronological order. And the other example I'll give is in preparing the MacVoices shows for publication, I'm entering maybe the title and the description and the URL multiple different places. I don't want to have to go back and, copy the title, then, paste, copy the URL, paste, put it all in the clipboard manager. And then it's just a matter of picking the one that, I want and going down. Now I have to look because my hands know what the commands are. I've just forgotten. So I have this set as command space to bring up LaunchBar, and then command space L. No, that's not right. Command space. Good Lord. Now I'm thinking I can't do it.
And you can't do it. No, I totally get it.
Shoot. There we go. Command space, what's that? K. Command space K. And it brings up the history. And so right now I'm looking at about, 100 different entries here. And so just quickly scroll down and pick the one I want, and it's done. So, and that's it. Now, the only disadvantage to LaunchBar is that if you have a crash or an unscheduled restart where something gets, disappears or misbehaves like you were having this morning, I lose the buffer. So my clipboard history is empty and it's gone, and I have to, start gathering things up again, which is not a tragedy, but it also can be inconvenient, especially if it's something that maybe I remembered that I did last week and it should have been at the bottom of my clipboard manager. So there's another clipboard manager that is absolutely terrific called Pastebot. It's by Tapbots.
I have a license to Pastebot.
Okay. All right. Now, let's see. What's that? Somebody in the chat room says I use LaunchBar. Good job.
I can't read it.
Oh, that's Magic Man. I'm sorry. Magic Man, you're fuchsia, and I'm having trouble reading it. Anyway, Pastebot will let you capture things indefinitely, and it writes them to the disk so that in the event of one of those crashes or whatever, I still have that backup secondary clipboard for that information. It doesn't happen often, but it's not taking up that much space on my computer, obviously, and because everything is just, you don't put large things in your clipboard most of the time. And so it's sort of a backup clipboard that I can restore from. So those are the two that I have. And I mean, they are literally some of the first utilities that I install on a new Mac, because just like now, my fingers know what to do. I know I don't even think about it anymore, any more than you would. I'd throw a mug to you and you'd reach up and catch it. You don't have to think about it; you just do it. So I just can't. And PasteSpot for me, I could never. And maybe because I was spoiled by LaunchBar first, I could never get it quite as integrated into my daily life as easily. But with those key combinations, man, it just I buzz through it. So those are my two preferences. But it's interesting to hear that you have a license for PasteSpot, LaunchBar, and you have a license for you have Alfred installed, and you don't use any of them. Fascinating.
And I'm going to make it even worse, Chuck, because right now I have Clip Tools installed.
Oh, okay.
And I had actually forgotten that I had it installed until we started talking about this. And I'm sure at some point people were watching while we're talking and they see me like looking off to the side. And that's because I had opened up another window to go into applications, because I knew I had a Clipboard Manager installed, but couldn't even remember which one. And it's Clip Tools. And so I've got that open now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I did like this one while I was using it, and then one day I just wasn't, and I can't tell you why I wasn't. And it was the same thing for PasteSpot. And I think the reason PasteSpot isn't on this computer is because when I set up this computer to replace my old one, which has been a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer, I can't remember. I started installing stuff that I needed right away. And then as things came up and I'm like, oh, I don't have this, I better go get it. Then I would add in new things so that I wasn't just loading up a bunch of apps that I wasn't ever going to launch. And I never got around to installing PasteSpot. I totally get the value in a clipboard manager. And yet here we are where you're relying on one. You can't function with that properly without a clipboard manager on your computer. And here I am totally getting the value of one and not actually ever really using them.
But, I can't imagine. I mean, I feel hobbled when I sit on a computer for any length of time without it. But we're right back to the old discussion of, the right tool for the right job for the right person. If it doesn't suit your style of work, then that's fine. I guess I look at it and say, well, you don't have to use it. You could just still, copy and paste things normally and just let them stack up in your clipboard manager until you decide I really need that thing that I just did 3 copy and pastes ago, and then it's there. Mm-hmm. Now you probably are going to have to put a sticky up beside your screen for a little while to remember the key command or exactly how to get to it, depending on which one you use. But it's well worth, for my money, it's well worth the investment in time. So
no, I totally get it, and yet here I am. And what I need to do is try again. I think part of what makes it easy for me to keep forgetting that I have clipboard managers is Tot from Icon Factory, TOT, Tot.
Right.
Because that's a tool for transient information. And I throw stuff in Tot and then it's there for when I need it. And then when I know I don't need it, I just clear out that note. So in a way, I'm using it sort of like a clipboard manager, but it adds a lot of extra steps. But also oftentimes the stuff that I'm throwing into Tot that I know is there just temporarily, it's more than just a few minutes or a couple days. It might be there for a week or two. Like if I'm working on a project, I'll throw a bunch of stuff into a Tot note, and then I've got all that stuff in one place. And then when I need it, it's all there, and I can move it into whatever document I'm working on,
And
which I could do with a Clipboard Manager too.
well, but again, if it works for you, there's nothing wrong with it. It might be a question of can you be more efficient if you want to be, but what if it works for you, then fine. I'm going to take. We're only going to go so far down this path because this could lead to a whole other show. Do you use any of the shelf utilities
The shelf utilities?
like Yoink or?
Oh, Yoink. I used Yoink extensively for quite a while, and and I'm not using it right now, but it's one of those things where periodically I'm like, oh, holy crap, I need to launch Yoink, and so I'm using Yoink intermittently, and it's a great tool.
Yeah, yeah. Now, my use case for Yoink has to do with the production of the show, where I have intros, outros, certain graphics that get constantly inserted and everything. I just have those on a Yoink shelf and drag them over into Final Cut. So it's seldom is a place for temporary things like a lot of people use it, but it's more a really easy repository for things that might not exactly, well, they really don't fit into a clipboard manager because the clipboard obviously eventually scrolls off. And so I know that I have a regular need for those. So I put them in Yoink on the shelf and hide it off to the corner and, grab them when I need them. So there are all these little productivity tools that are so good and so effective depending on what you do and how you do it.
Mm-hmm. I am so with you. Yep. All right. We need to loop back at some point and see if I am actively using a clipboard manager.
I'm going to put it on diary.
Excellent.
And we will do a follow up.
We'll do a follow up. Hey, I do follow up topics every week by saying, "Hey, guys, gang, gals, have you heard of TSO Hosts?" Because that's the company that's helping us make sure that we can be here for all of you every single week. TSO Host is a web hosting company, and they help you buy domain names. And what they're doing is taking their skill set, their assets, and saying, "Hey, British Tech Network, here, take this stuff and use it." And that's how they're giving back to the community. So they give us the bandwidth so we can live stream multiple shows every single week. They give us the hosting space, so there's a place for the website. They give us the server space we need, so there's a place for all the show recordings to live. And then that way, even when you can't watch or listen live, you can still stay up to date on all the shows because you can watch or listen whenever you like. And without their help, we would not be able to do what we're doing because it takes a lot of resources to pull all of this together. So we really, really appreciate the help and support that TSO Host is giving us. So thank you for that, TSO Host. And if you are buying domain names and you want to use their service for that, which you don't have to, use the discount code BTN20 when you get to checkout and you get 20% off your order. But I mean, there's no obligation to do that. But if you do, hey, it's a great way to get a discount. What I would like you to do is hop on social media and thank TSO Host for being here, which, by the way, doesn't cost you anything extra. You can just go do it. And it's a great way to let them know that we do appreciate what they're doing for us. So thank you, TSO Hosts. All right. So, Chuck, I pointed out yesterday when Ian was here that I typically rely on Patrice to tell people about the live chat, and she's not able to join us today. So that means it falls on me. And here's the deal. Patrice went to all the trouble to update our whole system to modernize us for the live stream and the chat. So now, instead of me fumbling through and sounding like a complete idiot when I try and explain the chat, I can actually do it now because it's so much slicker. So here we go. All right. So when you go to live.britishtechnetwork.com so that you can uh, view the show live as we're recording, there's a whole side panel that's part of that, and that's the live chat. And you're just automatically in it, and you can interact with us in real time. You can see links that we drop in, and you can be part of the conversation. You can even change your name from the rando name that it gives you, so that you have the name you want. And like right now, when I look at the chat, I'm seeing messages from Chuck, from Bob Beach, from Magic Man, and that's cool. That's why this is here, so we can all be part of the discussion together. Let's say though that you're watching or listening to the show after the fact, and you want to see what was in the chat. You can do that. Excuse me, because all those chats are recorded. And all you have to do to find that is go to britishtechnetwork.com/chat. And there'll be a cool calendar there. Click on the date for the show. And today is October 4th, 2024. And so click on that date and you'll get to see the chat from today's show. And that's it. That's how it works. It's that simple now. So thank you, Patrice, for taking the time to get us up to date and modernized to make it easy for me to actually talk about the chat when you weren't here. And so with that, Chuck, it's time to do cool things. And do you have one?
I do. And I'm using it right now. Let's see, let me put this link in the chat room there for you. I am using the Shure. Now I moved away from it. Good job, Chuck. I'm using the Shure MV7 Plus podcast dynamic microphone. I'm not going to move it because up so you can see it. You have to click the link, otherwise you'll get this crash when that happens when you've moved mics around. I've been using a Rode broadcaster for a long time, and I loved it. And I still love it. But unfortunately, the output seemed to always be just a touch low. But more importantly, I had to look for outboard devices to fix pops and plosives and, do all those extra cool things. The Shure comes with a utility that gives you control over all of that. It is a dual input, so I can either connect this via XLR or USB. The only small difference is that if I go via, let's see, how's it go? If I go via XLR, then I don't have use of the app. So I've changed over to USB and really have just loved this mic because it feels like it's a little more present. But more importantly, I have separate control over volume and all those other settings. So that if I want to, if I find myself popping P's a little more, I can tweak that. I can tweak just about every setting you can think of. It has a touch spot on the top of the mic where I can mute it. And I'm not going to do that because then you can't hear me. And interestingly, it has a little glowing LED bar that reacts to my voice as far as, like almost like a VU meter. And the color can be customized because that's really important. So,
well, if you're branding for your show, then sure, you want to have the color of your little mic VU meter, if it's visible, to match the rest of your branding colors.
Fair point. I keep it invisible because I just do. I keep it just right down below the camera line. But I've been super impressed with this. It's we're going to send you to Amazon, of course, but it is there, and I'm also going to throw in a link. And the reason I ended up with this mic is because I interviewed the folks from Shure at NAB this year, and it's kind of difficult to demo a mic in an interview on a show floor in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That said, though, I was so impressed with everything about it, with the versatility and the app, that it's like, okay, I got home, I waited a little while, tried to forget it, couldn't forget it, thought I'm going to give it a try, and I can always send it back if I'm not happy with it. And I never even thought about sending it back from the first day. It's just been that good. So if you are looking for a good podcast mic, and you don't want to listen to Guy Searle's recommendations about 500 of them, trust me, this is a great mic for you to dig into.
It is a good mic. You sound really good on it. I do not have one myself. I'm using my Rode Podcaster that I've used for years, and it's so great. I don't need to use a different mic. Or I haven't felt compelled to buy more mics.
Well, the one advantage, Jeff, you have with the broadcaster is, because yours is a different model than I was using, is yours is a USB. So yours goes right in. You don't have the controls, but Rode does such a great job of making that a podcast mic that it builds everything in automatically. And I've been on the verge 36 times of moving over to that. And then this came on the market. And there was an earlier version that was good, but I feel like it really stepped up a few notches with this model. So, which you can't go wrong. The one Jeff's using, the one I'm using, you've got a couple great options.
Yeah. If I was in the market to buy new mics right now, which Guy Searle would be like, how can you not be? This is a mic that I'd be looking at seriously. The Shure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Awesome pick. And luckily, it's not costing me money because I don't need to buy any mics right now. So my pick is not going to cost you money because it's Inktober. We're in October now, and a lot of people are familiar with NaNoWriMo. So in November, you try and write 50,000 words for a book over the course of a month. Inktober, same kind of idea, but it's different. You do a drawing each day. And with Inktober, what they do is they give you a list of prompts every year. And then each day you get a prompt, and they give you the list ahead of time. So it's not like it's a surprise when the new prompts roll out. And that way you can spend as much or as little time working on each day's drawing as you want, and then share it with people or don't. So I do Inktober every year. And after I do my drawings, I take a photograph, because this will shock you, Chuck. Even though I use Linear Sketch extensively, when I do drawings like this, it takes me too long for what I want to do them on my iPad. So I do them on paper with pencil and pen, and then just take a photograph. And then put that online. If I wanted to do more with the drawings, I would, after I photograph them, then I would drop them in Linear Sketch, and then I would make a new thing using that as a template. But anyhow, so the point is, each day I give myself 15 minutes from the time I read the prompt to the time that I need to be done with my drawing, because I don't want this to turn into a thing where it feels like I have a chore every single day. So 15 minutes, I put it online, everyone gets to see it, and I this well for the past couple years I've had an Inktober buddy, Michelle Frechette. She is super smart, a big name in the WordPress community, and so we just have this fun back and forth with our drawings. And actually this year I have roped in Kelly Gumont as another Inktober buddy, which is just so much fun. Anyhow, do Inktober with me. Let's all do drawings. You can do as many or as few as you want. There's no rules. It can be on paper. It can be on your computer, on a tablet, on your iPad, whatever. You can use whatever mediums you want, and make the drawings you want. And even if you don't want to do the prompt, but you want to do a drawing for the day, do whatever you want. It's great. So, there are no rules. They're just suggestions, and it doesn't cost you any money. So, Inktober, that's my pick.
Jeff, I have to ask, because I'm fascinated, because I'm not. I mean, I would not put any drawings online because I don't do drawings, because I don't do drawings. But why would it take you so much longer on the iPad as opposed to the an ink, or I guess a pen and paper?
It's the tactile feedback. I am very tactile when I'm drawing, and I actually haven't tried this year, and this year I potentially could be doing this all on an iPad, because now I have a rock paper pencil on the screen cover on my iPad, which gives my iPad a much more paper feel. So it is much more tactile now. And so I should try it. But typically, I have found that with the way I draw, and I tend to make fast movements and like bold strokes, and the feedback that I get on paper with a pencil or a pen, it's much easier for me to feel where I am when I'm drawing. So doing something like a circle, I can draw the circle that I want very quickly, and probably the first time or second time on paper. Whereas historically, when I've done it on an iPad, I can sit there and draw and undo, draw, undo, draw, undo it multiple times, like a lot of times, before I get the circle that I want, because I wasn't getting the tactile feedback that I need to know that that my pencil tip or pen tip is where it is on the page, linked back to my eyes and my brain, and it's a very physical, touchy feely thing for me when I'm drawing.
I know we may run long here, but I have to ask, because I'm really intrigued by my perception is that you would sit down and you have no undos. So if you start that drawing, or in the midst of that drawing, and you do something that isn't quite to your liking, you can't undo it. You just sort of have to work around it, as opposed to having the undo power, if nothing else, the undo power of a digital option. I would have thought that the undo power would have been more desirable to someone like you, who has something in mind. They want that circle in this particular fashion, and therefore you have 2 or 3, 4 tries, as many as it takes, as opposed to one, and then you got to start over with another piece of paper.
That's a totally legit question. All right, so when I started drawing, like the types of drawings I'm doing for Inktober, I start with pencil. So I have unlimited undos.
Oh,
because I have an eraser.
Oh, okay.
And then once I have my basic drawing done, then I use that as my guide, where I go back with pens and then do my inking, and then I undo all of the pencil work.
I
So
fascinating. I would have never. I guess maybe I was being a little bit biased because it's Inktober, so I think about it being done in ink.
that's a fair assumption. And let's say I did do the whole thing in ink instead of starting with pencil. On paper, if I do something that's wrong or that's not quite what I want, it's more likely that it's less wrong, if you will, on paper than it would be on my iPad, because I already feel like I have more control over what I'm drawing. So maybe that circle that ends up a little lopsided, that's fine. I can work with that. But if it was on my iPad, that would be magnified. Now, like I said, I haven't tried this year doing it on my iPad now that I have rock, paper, pencil, which is crap. Who does rock, paper, pencil? Oh my God, I can't remember. Is that 10-1 design?
Um, Let me look.
I think. Um, but like
Astropad.
when Astropad, thank you,
Astropad.
Astropad. Um, when I did all of my drawings for Mac Stock for that presentation, all of that was done just on an iPad. I didn't start on paper for any of that stuff. So part of it depends on my use case.
That really is interesting, Jeff. I would not have thought about, and especially given that you say you put 15 minutes into it. I mean, it sounds like the process would take longer. But again, I'm biased because I'm an observer, not a participant, as to how you accomplish what you do. Because your drawings are super clever. They always convey exactly, I know exactly what you're trying for. Whereas if I draw something, people say, "What is that?" So
just look at them, roll your eyes, and say, "It's art. What's wrong with you?"
I've tried that. I got a D in art in ninth grade, and I've never recovered.
See, I don't get that. Can you get a D in art? And now, before you interpret that as what's wrong with you, Chuck, my point is, what's wrong with your teacher? Because
I've been told that it was the teacher's fault that I have this block. But it is what it
seriously,
is.
because that would be like um let let's let's go let's go to an extreme. Okay. So Claude Monet, when you look at his works when he's younger and compare them to his works when he's older, where he has really poor vision, cataracts, I believe, or glaucoma. I don't remember. Anyhow, his vision is very obscured or obstructed, and he still drew what he saw. So what he sees when he's older is this very blurred, non-distinct thing. An art teacher isn't going to look at that. Like he has a pond that he did when he could see and when he couldn't, and it's in his garden. And you look at the two, and it's like these are both beautiful, amazing pieces of art. Even though one of them, there's no details at all, really, for what he's looking at. Can you imagine an art teacher telling Monet that second piece is a D because it's not as good and detailed as the first?
My art teacher probably would have.
Yeah, well, we need to go
So
find your art teacher and have a little talk. We're going to flip tables and say things like, "What the heck in heck is wrong with you?"
Well, I think that individual is probably long gone. So, but the
Karma.
legacy lives on.
Well, I cannot imagine giving someone a D in art because you're creating what you create, and how do you grade that?
It was a
I mean,
different time, Jeff.
my feeling is if you have an art class and you show up and the instructor says this is the assignment and you do the assignment, then you have succeeded. That is an A. If you don't show up to class or you show up and refuse to do anything, you have not completed the task. Therefore, you have failed. This is a binary thing. It's not like, yeah, I'll call that art C. Your art teacher is not a fracking critic. They're there to teach you. I could soapbox on this, and I know someone that I could soapbox with, and you would just probably sit there and roll your eyes at both of us.
Should I ask who?
Oh, you know exactly who. It's part of Team Cindy.
Oh, gee. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. We've had this conversation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, all right. Well, we've had an interesting show because basically it was what did we talk about in pre-show, and let's work through whatever trauma has ruined uh, uh, Chuck's artistic aspirations.
Sounds like the
Yeah.
makings of a good Mac show.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are.
Chuck, this has been so much fun. And before the show, I said, "Hey, it's just the two of us. We're getting started late. Maybe we'll be able to wrap the show up early today." And no, we did not because we've already hit an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
anyhow,
some of the chat room are still with us. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you for being here.
yes. And Bob Beach brought up Picasso, another excellent example. Yeah. Anyhow, all right. So Chuck, this has been so much fun, and it's rare when we're on a show together or there's some interview thing happening where I'm the host and you are the guest or the interviewee. So it's fun for me to flip the tables like this for a one-on-one.
It is.
Thank you for being game.
Oh yeah, and I feel like this was more of a conversation because I'm interested. You were interviewing me, and I was interviewing you back, just on different topics and different ways of looking at things. So, yeah, this is a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
You can find everything I'm doing over at MacVoices.com. We do the live show Tuesday nights with Jeff and a whole lot of our other friends at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We do have a website where there is now a MacVoices blog that I am committed now to trying to keep that up since it's now a lot easier to do. So check that out. And on all the socials, you can find me as @Chuck Joyner. Jeff, thank you for the time on the couch this morning. I appreciate it.
I've got your back. My bill is in the mail.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Where can we find you, Jeff?
Oh, well, thanks for asking, Chuck. So on social media, I'm Jay Gamet, and I'm posting on Instagram and Mastodon. I mean, obviously, since I'm doing Inktober. And then for shows, you already mentioned MacVoices Live, so thank you for letting me join in on that on Tuesdays. Dave Ginsburg, who isn't able to join us today, he lets me join in on In Touch with iOS on Thursdays. And then here we are on the British Tech Network, where somehow Ewan continues to let me be the interim host for the big show on Thursdays and the Mac show on Fridays. Then Brian Chaffin and I, we record The Context Machine. And Patrice Brendamore, who isn't able to be here today either, we record Retro Rewatch together. And I think that's pretty much everything. Anyhow, this has been loads of fun. Chuck, I'm glad we got to do a one-on-one like this. And yeah, it's been a blast. So with that, hey, everyone that's tuned in live, thank you for being here and being part of this. And everyone that's been active in the live chat, thank you for participating in that as well. All of you, you're awesome. And everyone that watches or listens to the shows later, thank you for being part of the BTN family as well. I mentioned Ewan a moment ago. I'm going to mention him again right now because I'm going to say, Ewan, thank you for being you. And Muller, thank you for making sure we have people for shows. And TSO hosts, thank you for being here and supporting us. And now I feel totally comfortable saying, hey, this has been loads of fun. Thanks again to everyone for being part of this. Don't forget to join us next Thursday for the big show. Come back again next Friday for the Mac show. And everyone, have an awesome weekend.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Clipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.